cultures. So once we're done with Metal Age cultures, we are going to learn Bronze Age cultures. As far as metal is concerned, so it was Robert Bruce Foote who was responsible for the classification of cultures into two parts, Stone Age cultures and Metal Age cultures. So Robert Bruce Foote, popularly called as father of Indian prehistory. So start with Chalcolithic. So before getting the details of Chalcolithic cultures, so in a right side you can write down this. In a small box you can write down this. The metals in India and Raskondi. Metals in India. Start with, that is gold. Gold hyphen Neolithic cultures. Gold, Neolithic cultures. Copper, Chalcolithic cultures. Copper, Chalcolithic cultures. Bronze, IVC, Indus people. Bronze, Indus people. And finally, iron, Vedic Aryans. To be specific, under Vedic Aryans, you use Gangetic Aryans. Chalo, what does it mean by use of metals in India? And you understand in this way. Gold was the first metal to be used in India by Neolithic people. Already we have learned in the previous session, especially the Neolithic people of Karnataka. We refer one or two examples. For example, bracelets, necklaces were made of beads and gold. So in this context, you have to understand gold was the earliest metal used by Neolithic people. That's it. Next, Chalcolithic people used copper. Followed by Indus people used bronze. Bronze is a mixture of two metals. Alloy metal we call it. If possible, can anyone? What are the two metals? Copper and tin. Bronze is an alloy metal of two metals, that is copper and tin. So bronze was the earliest metal used by Indus people. Or bronze was the first, Indus people or the earliest people to use bronze item. And when it comes to iron, iron was used by later Vedic Aryans in and around 1000 BC. Now we found questions. And if someone asks a question, Metal Age cultures annappudu, why didn't you start Metal Age cultures annappudu, why didn't you start from Neolithic cultures? In Stone Age cultures we have three. What were they? Paleo, Meso, Neo. Right? Metal Age cultures, once again we have three. Chalco, Bronze Age, otherwise called as Indus Valley Civilization, and Iron Age, otherwise called as Aryan Civilization. Right? Then if it is the case, don't you think gold is a metal? Gold is metal, right? Right? Then instead of placing Neolithic cultures here, why don't you place Neolithic cultures over there and Napru? See, when I say gold, no doubt Neolithic people of South India used for the first time gold. It does not mean the same gold used by Neolithic people in making tools. You can't make tools with gold. You can make tools with copper. Look at the board. Copper tools. Copper implements. Copper tools, copper implements. So what I'm trying to tell you, copper is the earliest metal used by Chalcolithic people, or the people who lived for about say 7000 BC to 3000 BC, whatever the BC we're going to learn. So they were the earliest people to use copper. What for? In making tools. Already we have learned a statement based on tool making technology. The respective cultures broadly divided into two: Stone Age, Metal Age. That's it, right? Chalo. So now with this background, come to that is the Chalcolithic cultures. As far as Chalcolithic cultures are concerned, the span of Chalcolithic cultures 3000 BC, 1000 BC, 3000 BC, 1000 BC, hyphen 700 BC. BC. See, once we are done with the very brief intro part, we are going to follow the same pattern. That is say we have developments followed by important sites and all, right? Literal meaning of Chalcolithic cultures, you can write down, that is copper stone age cultures. Akade Chalcolithic cultures దగ్గర copper stone age cultures అంటాం. Chalco, it's a Greek term. The English version, Chalco is a Greek term. The English version, copper. Lithic, Greek term. The English version, stone. So Chalcolithic cultures can also be called as Stone Age cultures. That's it. Chalcolithic cultures can also be called as Stone Age cultures. Copper Stone Age cultures, I'm sorry, right? Chalcolithic cultures can also be called as Copper Stone Age cultures. Now, Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, the major tools made of stone. From the days of Chalcolithic cultures, that is around 3000 BC to 1000 BC or 700 BC, besides stones, the same people used copper metal. So thereby, these cultures can also be called as Chalcolithic. So as I was telling, the people used copper to make implements. Right? Chalo, with this background, line raskun. The humans gradually learned to use metals. The humans gradually learned to use metals. The humans gradually learned to use metals in place of stone tools. In place of stone tools. In place of stone tools. Continuation. The transformation from stone to metal. The transformation from stone to metal. The transformation from stone to metal was gradual. The transformation from stone to metal was gradual, which took lakhs of years. Which took lakhs of years. One more line. The people of Chalcolithic cultures used both stone and copper tools simultaneously. Both stone and copper tools simultaneously. So with this background, same pattern, come to developments. Developments. So as far as developments are concerned, whatever the developments we might have learned under the tag called Paleo, Meso, Neo, more or less the same developments, especially developments which we found in Neolithic cultures, more or less the same developments we're going to learn with minor changes. Right? What is the major profession of Paleolithic cultures? Hunting and gathering. Go to Mesolithic cultures, domestication of animals, and Neolithic cultures, agriculture. Now come to Chalcolithic cultures, agriculture, right? So you can write down Agriculture. Now, don't you think, though agriculture was a major profession of Chalcolithic cultures, they might have used the previous professions, right? ఒక లైన్ రాసుకోండి. Besides agriculture, besides agriculture, besides agriculture, the people also got involved. Besides agriculture, the people also got involved. Besides agriculture, the people also got involved. The people also got involved in multiplication of animals. In multiplication of animals. In multiplication of animals and gathering activities. And gathering activities. Multiplication of animals and gathering activities. ఇక్కడ కొత్త పదాన్ని యూజ్ చేయడం జరిగింది. డొమెస్టికేషన్ ఆఫ్ అది బోర్ కొట్టింది. మల్టిప్లికేషన్ ఆఫ్ యానిమల్స్ అండ్ గ్యాదరింగ్ యాక్టివిటీస్, రైట్? వన్ మోర్, అనదర్ డెవలప్మెంట్, ఎక్స్పాన్షన్ ఆఫ్ విలేజ్ సెటిల్మెంట్స్. Expansion of village settlements. Expansion of village settlements. So when we understand the differences between Neolithic cultures and Chalcolithic cultures, did we find village settlements in Neolithic cultures? Yes. We also found village settlements in Chalcolithic cultures. When we understand between Neolithic settlements and Chalcolithic settlements, Neolithic settlements were made of bricks. Neolithic settlements were made of bricks. Then how about Chalcolithic settlements? They were made of stones. They were made of stones. Now let me pose a very general question. Compared with Neolithic cultures, were Chalcolithic cultures advanced in nature? I repeat the question. Compared with Neolithic cultures, were Chalcolithic cultures advanced in nature? Answer is no. Why? Compared with Neolithic cultures, Chalcolithic cultures lagged behind. क्यों? No, that is extreme weather forced the people to live underground. Technological developments. How? Good. That's an answer. Compared with stone, in order to make a brick, you require technology. In this context, good enough. In this context, scholars branded, though Chalcolithic cultures ahead of Neolithic cultures, when we understand timeline, right? Neolithic cultures 7000 BC, 1000 BC and raskunnam. Ikkada 3000 BC to 1000 BC or 700 BC. Though Chalcolithic cultures were ahead in timeline, but lagged behind in terms of developments. And one more thing you shall keep in mind, we might have learned in the previous session, Neolithic cultures, Chalcolithic cultures and Harappan cultures. All these cultures were existing contemporarily. We found commercial and cultural relations between Neolithic cultures and Chalcolithic cultures. The same relations we found Neolithic cultures and Harappan cultures and Chalcolithic cultures. Then why you are using Neo and Chalco as cultures, Harappans as civilization? Because compared with Neolithic and Chalcolithic cultures, Harappan cultures were advanced in nature. In the previous sessions, we might have learned, what does it mean by culture? Way of life. Civilization? That's it. We didn't find advanced way of life in Neolithic cultures and Chalcolithic cultures. Thereby, they were regarded as cultures, which I'll be going to speak as part of Indus Valley civilization. What are the prerequisites to call particular culture as civilization? Prerequisites enti? Right? Chalo. So, ఈ లార్జ్ ఎక్స్పాన్షన్ ఆఫ్ విలేజ్ సెటిల్మెంట్స్ దగ్గర ఒక లైన్ రాసుకోండి. దో many village settlements though many village settlements discovered during excavations they were made of stone. Rarely bricks were used. Thereby the scholars opine that though Chalcolithic cultures were advanced in chronology, but lagged behind technologically. Right. One more. Another development that can be learnt under Chalcolithic cultures. The span of Chalcolithic cultures 3000 BC to 1000 BC oblique 700 BC. Wheel-made pottery with paintings. Wheel-made pottery with paintings. If you go through previous question papers, you come across at least one question on pottery, right? Malenti pottery annappudu. When did we find pottery? In which age we find pottery? Very good. Mesolithic cultures. Which pottery? Good. Now go to Neolithic cultures. Wheel-made pottery. Now come to Chalcolithic cultures. Wheel-made pottery with అయిపోయింది. మ్యాథ్స్ ద ఫాలోయింగ్ చాలా ఈజీ నేను, ఎందుకని ప్రీవియస్ ఇయర్ క్వశ్చన్స్ చూస్తుండాలి. యూ యువర్ సెల్ఫ్ అండర్స్టాండ్ హౌ ద ప్యాటర్న్స్ వర్, సో దట్ లైక్ whenever you read any textbook, your mind tells you this is how you have to prepare, kind of. This is one pattern. Another pattern we found, on one hand names of the cultures, on the other hand names of the pottery. For example, Chalcolithic cultures, we call it OCP. OCP stands for ochred colored pottery. Indus Valley Civilization, BRW stands for black and red ware. Vedic civilizations, they used a typical pottery called PGW. PGW stands for painted grey ware cultures. By the time you go to pre-Mauryan age and Mauryan age, so they used a typical pottery called NBPW, Northern Black Polished Ware. So different cultures used different potteries. Well, enti OCP enti annappudu, OCP stands for ochred colored pottery. Jars, utensils, pots, like on outer say part, you come across various paintings. So wheel-made pottery with paintings. A typical pottery used by Chalcolithic people, when I say typical pottery, it was these terminologies like given by archaeologists. So OCP, ochred colored pottery, దీన్ని మనము ochred colored pottery అంటాం. ఈ types of pottery మనం ochred colored pottery అంటాం. Once we go to Indus Valley Civilization, BRW discuss చేస్తాం, followed by Vedic Civilization, PGW, painted grey ware, and finally NBPW. This is another pattern. Mazda following, on one hand names of the cultures, on the other hand potteries. That's it. Right? So under wheel-made pottery, you can write down one line. During excavations, large number of utensils, discovered. Archaeologists branded these utensils as OCP. Archaeologists branded these utensils or pots as OCP. OCP stands for ochred colored pottery. Ochred colored pottery. Right, one more. The discovery of copper and use of copper tools, another development. The discovery of copper and use of copper tools. The discovery of copper and use of copper tools. So don't you think with the advent of a new, what we call say, metal in their life, don't you think the new professions might have added? New professions in the sense like, what do we call in English the person who works with metals? Blacksmiths. The one who works with gold, goldsmith. So we found a new profession called blacksmith antam, right? Okay, line raskondi. With the advent of copper, ADVENT, ADVENT, with the advent of copper and tool making technology, we found various new professions. Which further led to the expansion of settlements. Right. So these are the important developments that can be learned under Chalcolithic cultures. And finally, you can write down that is religious beliefs. Already the same stuff which we might have learned as part of Neolithic cultures. Religious beliefs. We also found here religious beliefs. So with this background, start with important sites. To begin with, Ahar, which is on board. Ahar. Which is hyphen this one? Rajasthan. Ahar, Rajasthan. As far as Ahar cultures of Rajasthan concerned, so write down important what do we call findings, archaeological findings? The largest Chalcolithic settlement. Largest Chalcolithic settlement. One more. The largest scale copper tools. The largest scale copper tools discovered. The largest scale copper tools discovered. Largest scale copper tools discovered. Examples raskondi. The copper buffalo. One more example, copper rhinoceros. Copper rhinoceros. One more example, a copper human cart drawn by animals, which is on board. Copper human cart drawn by animals. Some sort of primitive bullock cart. And besides these miniatures, we also found, right, so these are the copper tools from Ahar cultures, from Rajasthan, because Rajasthan is famous for Khetri mines. Khetri, it's the name of the place which is famous for copper mines, copper ores. Gani. Khetri mines. We're going to learn even as part of Indus Valley civilization, the same Ahar cultures, Chalcolithic cultures, or especially Ahar Chalcolithic people, they even exported copper to Indus Valley. The same Chalcolithic Ahar people also exported copper to Neolithic cultures. Manam previous session lo oka question discuss chesama, right? Neolithic people or the earliest people to use copper, and copper fish hook discovered and raskunnam. Evaru మొట్టమొదటిసారిగా copper ని యూజ్ చేశారు? Chalcolithic people, not Neolithic people, right? Chalo. So next, Gilind. Once again, Rajasthan. Gilind. Important archaeological findings from Gilind. The wheel-made pottery with paintings, or OCP. Wheel-made pottery with paintings, or OCP. Wheel-made pottery with OCP. One more archaeological finding. Copper objects. Copper objects. Next, Gungeria, Madhya Pradesh. Gungeria, oka chinna hyphen teeskondi, Madhya Pradesh. One more settlement, Malwa, once again Madhya Pradesh. Malwa, Madhya Pradesh. So Gungeria followed by Malwa. You can write down one more, that is Iran, once again Madhya Pradesh. Iran, Madhya Pradesh. And finally, Navada Toli, once again Madhya Pradesh. So have combined arrow mark for these settlements. Gungeria, Malwa, Iran and Navada Toli. So, konni archaeological findings raskondi. To begin with, fortified settlements. Fortified settlements. Fortified settlements. One more. What is meant by fortified settlements? Fortified, fortifications, fort, kota, larger wall. For example, whenever you observe today independent villas ganivandi, independent houses ganivandi, they have some sort of walls, outer walls. Manam Telugulo emantamante prahari goda antam. You cannot call Prahari Goda as a fort, but some sort of, right? So the respective settlements had big walls. Veetini emantamante fortifications antam. By the time we go to Indus Valley civilization, each and every town has fortification. Unlike Khansar fortifications. Khansar fortifications. Okay, right? Chalo. So, one more. Wheel-made pottery with paintings, oblique OCP. Raskundara? Wheel-made pottery with paintings, oblique OCP. Wheel-made pottery with paintings, oblique OCP. One more. The worship of Mother Goddess. The worship of Mother Goddess hyphen snake cult. The worship of Mother Goddess hyphen snake cult. One more. Different burial practices. Different burial practices. Different burial practices. So what does it mean by burial practice? Burial practice का मतलब क्या होता है? After death, dispose. Good. So the way you dispose your dead bodies, ఈ ప్రాసెస్ ఏమంటామంటే burial practice అంటాం. In Telugu we call it శవాన్ని ఖననం చేసే పద్ధతి. Burial practice అంటాం. Which I'll be going to speak as part of northwestern India Chalcolithic cultures, right? Just have an idea. Various burial practices. It's all about, now come to Jorwe, which is on board. Jorwe, Maharashtra. Jorwe, Maharashtra. Besides Jorwe in Maharashtra, you can also write down one more. Daimabad. Daimabad. Once again Maharashtra. Daimabad. Daimabad, one more settlement you can write down, that is Prati Nagara Pura. Prati Nagara Pura. Prati Nagara Pura. So these are the important settlements in Maharashtra. Same, have combined bracket. Before getting the details of the so-called archaeological findings from Maharashtra Chalcolithic settlements, have small arrow mark under Daimabad. So just oka chinna line raskondi, that is MCS. MCS stands for multicultural site. Daimabad is a MCS. Daimabad is a multicultural site. Multicultural site. So with this background, write down archaeological findings. To begin with, fortified settlements. Fortified settlements. One more. The copper tools, especially of furnace. The copper tools, especially of furnace. F-U-R-N-A-C-E, furnace. Another finding from Maharashtra settlements. The practice of trephination. Vatala karyakramam. The practice of trephination. And one more. Various burial practices. Various burial practices. And finally, northwestern India. Northwestern India. Northwestern India, modern Pakistan. Northwestern India. So look at the board. So whatever the cultures, Chalcolithic cultures we found in northwestern India, we have totally broader cultures, 4 broader cultures అంటాం. For example, to make you understand, the Chalcolithic cultures of northwestern India broadly divided into 4 parts: Job cultures, Nal cultures, Kuli cultures, and Quetta cultures. Need not to tell you all these names of the places. For example, మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం దైమాబాద్. దైమాబాద్ is the name of the place. It's a multicultural site which you are going to learn as part of Indus Valley civilization. Daimabad, the significance of Daimabad as part of Indus Valley civilization, the southern boundary of Indus Valley civilization, which comes in what do we call Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra, modern Ahilyabai Nagar, right? So, ఒక చిన్న లైన్ రాసుకోండి. The Chalcolithic cultures of the Chalcolithic cultures of the Chalcolithic cultures of Northwest, the Chalcolithic cultures of Northwest further classified into 4 parts. Further classified into 4 parts. To begin with, Job, which is on board. Job cultures. One more, Null cultures. Job, Null. One more, Kulli and Quetta. Quetta is the provincial capital of Baluchistan, one of the provinces of Pakistan. If you have the habit of reading newspapers for the past 6 months, we found continuous movements, right? Chalo. So it's all about Job, Null, Kal, and Kulli and Quetta. Write down important archaeological findings. To begin with, different burial practices. Different burial practices. కొన్ని ఎగ్జాంపుల్స్ రాసుకోండి. వాట్ ఆర్ ద డిఫరెంట్ బరియల్ ప్రాక్టీసెస్ అన్నప్పుడు ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్. వాట్ డస్ ఇట్ మీన్? ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్ అంటే చెప్పనా? ఓకే, और कुछ है? క్రిమేషన్ అంటే we were discussing burial practices. శవాన్ని ఖననం చేసే పద్ధతులు. ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్ అంటే పూడ్చిపెట్టడం. పెట్టడం, పూడ్చిపెట్టడం అంటాం. అంటే బరింగ్ ద డెడ్ బాడీ. బరింగ్ ద డెడ్ బాడీని ఏమంటామంటే ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్ అంటాం. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, Muslims follow this practice, Christians also follow this practice, and many castes in Hinduism also follow this practice. సరే, మళ్ళీ దాంట్లో ఇంకా మనకు సబ్ పార్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి. వీఆర్ నాట్ హియర్ టు డిస్కస్. ఏంటి సబ్ పార్ట్స్ అన్నప్పుడు, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏంది సార్ ఇది? డెడ్ బాడీ ఏదో ఆర్టిస్ట్, ఓకే, దేవుడిని సలహా చూడడం. సో డెడ్ బాడీని జనరల్గా కొన్ని కల్చర్స్లో నార్త్ టు సౌత్ పెడతారు, కొన్ని కల్చర్స్లో వెస్ట్ టు ఈస్ట్ పెడతారు, కొన్ని కల్చర్స్లో ఈస్ట్ టు వెస్ట్ పెడతారు, సౌత్ టు నార్త్ పెడతారు. ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ఇన్స్ట్రక్టింగ్ యూ పీపుల్ గో టు గ్రేవ్ యార్డ్స్ అండ్ అబ్జర్వ్, రైట్? ఇంకా కొన్ని కల్చర్స్లో డెడ్ బాడీస్ వర్ మేడ్ టు సిట్ వేర్ ఇన్ పిట్. అంటే డెడ్ బాడీ ఉంటుంది, డెడ్ బాడీని కూర్చోబెట్టి పూడుస్తారు అంటాం. డెడ్ బాడీస్ వర్ మేడ్ టు సిట్ and that will be buried. See, different cultures we have. Now, cremation. What is cremation? Burning the dead bodies, especially Brahmins and Reddys, few Reddy castes in Telugu speaking states, right? So they go for cremation. Besides inhumation and cremation, we found fractional burial. Fractional burial. What is the fractional burial, including online students? Fractional burial का मतलब क्या होता है? Fractional burial. Fractional అంటే పీసెస్ కట్ చేసి ఇవన్నమాట. మీరు మీ క్రైమ్ స్టోరీస్ ఫ్రిడ్జ్లు చలో ఓకే చలో ఫ్రాక్షనల్ బరియల్. సో దిస్ పర్టికులర్ ప్రాక్టీస్ followed throughout what we call Indian subcontinent, especially Chalcolithic cultures, even Indus Valley civilization and other cultures. Even today, the same burial practice called fractional burial practice that is being followed by Parsis and your Tatas, Bidlas, they belong to Parsi community. అసలు ఏంటి ఫ్రాక్షనల్ బరియల్ అన్నప్పుడు, ఫ్రాక్షనల్ బరియల్ ప్రాక్టీస్లో the dead body would be placed under a nature. ఒక పెద్ద ఓపెన్ గ్రౌండ్లో డెడ్ బాడీని పెడతారు, రైట్. ద డెడ్ బాడీ ఈజ్ బీయింగ్ అలౌడ్ టు బీ ఈటెన్ బై వల్చర్స్, రాబందులు, వల్చర్స్. డోంట్ కౌంటర్ మీ, వల్చర్స్ ఆర్ బీయింగ్ ఎక్స్టెండెడ్. They started patronizing vultures because it's a culture, right? So when like say flesh would be eaten by vultures, what do you come across? Skeleton, right? The skeleton would be burned. ఇంకేమేం చెప్తావు సార్, అక్కడ ఉన్న కల్చర్ అనమాట. The skeleton would be burned, and what do you come across? Relics, ashes. That ashes would be merged in some sacred rivers, some sort of Chennai Express kind of. దీన్ని ఏమంటామంటే ఫ్రాక్షనల్ బరియల్ అంటాం. వాట్ ఐమ్ ట్రైంగ్ టు టెల్ యూ, the northwestern, not only northwestern, even like say Maharashtra, Jarve Chalcolithic people, they followed these burial practices: inhumation, cremation, fractional. We found questions frequently, especially from prehistoric cultures: inhumation, cremation, and fractional burial. Right. So these are the burial practices. Besides burial practices, one more. Skeletons with grave goods. Skeletons with grave goods. Skeletons with grave goods. మనం తెలుగులో ఏమంటామంటే సమాధిలో లభించినటువంటి వస్తువులు అంటాం, గ్రేవ్ గూడ్స్ అంటాం. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఇన్ ఎ గివెన్ సిచ్యువేషన్, టేక్ ఎన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్. మనం ఇందాక రెఫర్ చేసాం. ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్ అంటే ఏంటి? బరింగ్ ద డెడ్ బాడీ. When you place dead body inside the pit, around the dead body, placing the commodities or goods which the dead body was used in his or in her lifetime. For example, ఈ డెడ్ బాడీ iPhone 17 యూజ్ చేసింది అనుకోండి, దాన్ని కూడా పెడతారు. ఈ డెడ్ బాడీ మంచి దాన్ని కూడా పెడతారు. ఎందుకంటే ఇంక్లూడింగ్ ఛార్జర్ కూడా పెడతారు. ఆయన ఛార్జర్ అంటుండే, ఆ ఛార్జర్ కూడా పెడతారు అన్నమాట. ఎందుకంటే ఛార్జింగ్ అయిపోతే థియేటర్ తీసుకుని ఛార్జర్ కూడా పెడతారు. అప్లై ద సేమ్ టువర్డ్స్ సిట్టింగ్ పొజిషన్ కానివ్వండి, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద పొజిషన్స్ యూ టాక్ అబౌట్, ఇలాంటి ఎలిమెంట్స్ని ఏమంటామంటే స్కెలెటన్స్ విత్ గ్రేవ్ గూడ్స్ అంటాం. అసలు ఎందుకు వీళ్ళు గ్రేవ్ గూడ్స్ అనే కాన్సెప్ట్ను ఫాలో అయ్యారు అన్నప్పుడు, ఆర్కియాలజిస్ట్, దోట్స్ అండ్ హైపోథీసిస్, హైపోథీసిస్ అయినప్పటికీ నాట్ రేషనల్ బట్ లైక్ సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ బిలీఫ్, యూ కాల్ ఇట్. ఆర్కియాలజిస్ట్ opine that the people believed in the life after the death. That's it. Let me tell you, don't you think even today we follow? If not inside the what we call a pit, that is grave, but outer. జనరల్గా చనిపోయిన తర్వాత 3 days, 9 days, 6 days, whatever, like different cultures follow different methods, right? So అప్పుడు వీళ్ళు వెళ్ళి అన్ని వస్తువులు అక్కడ పెట్టొస్తారు అనమాట, రైట్. ఆయన కూడా పెట్టారు. సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ బిలీఫ్ అంటాం. ఏంది ఇదంటే లైఫ్ ఆఫ్టర్ ద డెత్, సమ్ సార్ట్ ఆఫ్ బిలీఫ్ ఇన్ ద లైఫ్ ఆఫ్టర్ ద డెత్ అంటాం. సో ఈ గ్రేవ్ గూడ్స్ దగ్గర బిసైడ్స్ వి ఆల్సో ఫౌండ్, అంటే ఈ కల్చర్స్ని అర్థం చేసుకోలేను, వి ఆల్సో ఫౌండ్ అ ట్రెడిషన్ డ్యూరింగ్ ఎక్స్కవేషన్స్, skeletons with charred legs. Skeletons with charred legs అంటే ఈ కాళ్ళను నరికివేయడము. ఇదేం కల్చర్ సార్? then archaeologists opine that some sort of demophobia. చనిపోయాడు, పొరపాటున తిరిగి రావాలంటే కాళ్ళు ఉంటే తిరగదు, charred legs అంటాం. And few excavations we also found double burial practice. And few excavations we also found triple burial practice. Two, what we call say, one is male, one is female, followed by chinna burial kind of. And few excavations we found one human burial, another one is animal burial. A dog gavani, inkodi gavanivandi. Different అంటే ఈ ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్, క్రిమేషన్, ఫ్రాక్షనల్, ఫర్గెట్ అబౌట్ ఫ్రాక్షనల్ బరియల్, ఇన్హ్యూమేషన్లో మనకి ఇవన్నీ రావడం జరిగింది. అండ్ వీ ఆల్సో కాల్ అన్ ఫ్యూ ఒకేషన్ దట్ ఈస్ పాట్ బరియల్. ఏంటి పాట్ బరియల్? డెడ్ బాడీ ఈజ్ మేడ్ టు సిట్ ఇన్ ఎ బిగ్ పాట్, దట్ పాట్ వుడ్ బి buried along with grave goods. Grave goods are universal, right? So during excavations, like big pots were discovered with skeletons and along with grave goods. Pot burial system antam deenni, right? Ee grave goods daggara oka chinna line raaskondi. Perhaps people believed in the life after the death. Perhaps people believed in the life after the death. The life after the death. No, incarnation, reincarnation, ఇంకా అంత పెద్ద నాలెడ్జ్ లేదు నన్ను, లైక్ రైట్. చలో, ఇట్స్ ఆల్ అబౌట్ చాల్కోలిథిక్ కల్చర్స్. Please. Yes. No. Good question. One of our friends, she asked the question. As you said, there were so many contemporary cultures. That is Neo, Chalco and Harappan. How about timeline? Don't bother about timeline. When it comes to prehistoric cultures, focus must be on these cultures got classified on the basis of tool making technology. That's it. Then how about Indus Valley? Yes, Indus Valley we have timeline, approximate timeline, which I'll be going to speak. We generally recite the timeline which you might have referred as part of chapterization. Indus Valley civilization timeline 2500 BC to 1750 BC. At least half a dozen timelines unnai. మళ్ళీ హాఫ్ ఎ డజన్ టైమ్ లైన్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు ఒక్కొక్క ఎవ్రీ స్కాలర్ హ్యాస్ కమ్ అప్ విత్ హైపోథిసిస్. మళ్ళీ అన్ని టైమ్ లైన్స్ ఉన్నప్పుడు వై వీ వర్ స్టికింగ్ విత్ 2500 BC to 1750 BC అన్నప్పుడు ఇట్ వాజ్ అ టైమ్ లైన్ విచ్ వాజ్ ఒపైన్డ్ బై R.S. Sharma based on C14 method. C14 method, కార్బన్ డేటింగ్ మెథడ్. అందుకనే వైల్ యూర్ రైటింగ్ ఈవెన్ ఇన్ జనరల్ స్టడీస్ మీన్స్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు రైట్ దట్ అకార్డింగ్ టు R.S. Sharma. That's it. Because it was R.S. Sharma who opined that the civilization might have flourished between 2500 BC to 1750 BC. That's it, right? Now start with half subheading prehistoric art forms and raskondi. Prehistoric art. As far as prehistoric art is concerned, for our convenience and exam point of view, the art forms in prehistoric cultures broadly divided into two parts. In fact, దానికంటే ముందు ఒక ప్యాటర్న్ మనం రాసుకున్నాం, ఒకసారి అబ్జర్వ్ చేయాలి. We have culture broadly divided into, say art and culture లో భాగంగా culture broadly divided into 3 elements. What were they? Literature, religion, art and architecture. Now come to art. In art we have 4 subtopics. What are they? మనం ఆల్రెడీ రాసుకున్నాం. What are they? సే స్కల్ప్చర్స్, శిల్పకళ అంటాం, పెయింటింగ్స్, చిత్రలేఖనం అంటాం, మ్యూజిక్ అండ్ డాన్స్. మళ్ళీ ఆర్కిటెక్చర్లో వీ హ్యావ్ మాన్యుమెంట్స్. మాన్యుమెంట్స్లో వీ హ్యావ్ సెక్యులర్ మాన్యుమెంట్స్, religious monuments. Now don't talk about monuments now. Now come to art. One of the art forms happen to be paintings, prehistoric paintings. Exam point of view, pratidi check chesukovali, cross check chesukovali, right? Now come to, as I was telling, according to the syllabus and according for exam point of view, whatever the elements which we found under prehistoric cultures, broadly divided into two parts, that is under prehistoric art, we are going to learn petroglyphs and pictographs. Pictographs are nothing but paintings, right? We might have used over there upper Paleolithic cultures onwards, we found paintings, pictographs, and by the time you go to Mesolithic cultures, we found big paintings. Now, if someone asks a question, why did the people go to petroglyphs and pictographs? What was the reason? First, what is meant by petroglyph? Petroglyph is usually a prehistoric carving in a rock. Petroglyphs are drawn by removing part of a rock. Taking a rock, you have to, through chiseling or you have to pitching, right? You have to remove a little bit of rock so that you can make something. You wanted to convey something. You wanted to show something. The question is to whom? To whom you wanted to convey something. Assume in a given situation, like we have learned prehistoric cultures, Paleo, Meso, Neo, especially Paleo, Meso especially, right? Forget about Neo because from Neolithic age onwards we found some sort of village communities, village settlements, and people started living together, right? Now come to Paleolithic and especially Mesolithic. When they started living on the banks of rivers, when they started living like on the caves, on many occasions they were hunted by wild animals. Having got escaped from the so-called wrath of wild animals, they started conveying the message to other band of people, they may come to here. So they started drawing. If you come across hunting the animals, okay, this is a best place for hunting the animals. If you come across petroglyphs, if you come across like attacking the wild animals and the people, some sort of you started giving a message to the people, no, don't be here for larger period of time, because this is a place which is known for wild animals. So వీటిని ఏమంటామంటే petroglyphs అంటాం. Then how about so these are the petroglyphs then. Then how about ఇవి కూడా petroglyphs? 10,000 old rock art in Charma depicts mysterious figurines and flying saucers. Ancient art gets a lifeline. Ladakh, Kashmir. Ladakh launches India's first petroglyph conservation park. So these are the areas where we found petroglyphs, especially మనకు మధ్యప్రదేశ్లో కానివ్వండి, సెంట్రల్ ఇండియాలో కానివ్వండి, ఛత్తీస్గఢ్, what we call say Bastar region, ఈ టెరిటరీస్లో కానివ్వండి, సెంట్రల్ ఇండియా, ఈవెన్ లైక్ the ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్, కర్ణాటక, and especially in Ladakh, northeast,